And I've been running seminars and life coaching for the last 4 years and helping people to change and transform their lives in many, many different ways. My journey began, this part of my journey, this leg of my journey began in 2015 when I attended a seminar, and as a result of that seminar I had some significant changes happen in my world. And I recognised that those changes first happened in my mind and in my heart. And because I came away from, it was a seminar that I went to, I came away so transformed, I've literally changed the trajectory of my life. I've transformed in many ways. What we're here to talk about tonight is health, and specifically, like the title of tonight's seminar was actually Six-Pack Abs, but I'm wondering now if we need to call it that, if we just call it health. I think what we do, back it off and we just say health. Let's be the healthiest that we can be. Let's look at how we can create optimal levels of health in our body. I'd like to start with this. There was a friend of mine named Tusa, and Tusa was given some bad news by the doctor. He went along to the doctor because he wasn't feeling so well. And the doctor told him, in no uncertain terms, that he needed to make some significant shifts and changes in his lifestyle. In fact, the doctor said that if you don't change, within 3 to 6 months you could be dead. It's that drastic, it was that serious. Now, what Tusa had done is neglected his health. He hadn't worried about what he ate. He hadn't even considered his dietary intake. He hadn't considered his lack of exercise. In fact, he was just living his life. He was having a good time at work. He was enjoying his family. He had 2 small children. And he wasn't looking after his health. And isn't it true that if we neglect something long enough, we don't even notice sometimes the decline? Well, this is where he was. And he hadn't even noticed. It was so subtle. And yet his health declined to such a point where he was faced with this ultimatum. The doctor told him that he needed to change, and he went home and found that nothing happened. Nothing changed. He didn't make any changes to the food that he was eating, not initially. However, a couple of days after that visit with the doctors, his mind, his unconscious mind got in touch with him. And his unconscious mind began playing scenes of him in a coffin. It played scenes of his wife dressed in black. He had scenes of his children crying over his grave, and they were fatherless. Now these scenes caused some feelings inside, caused some emotion. And isn't it true that all behaviour is state dependent? When we feel something, we do something. If we don't feel something, we don't change, we don't do anything. Now he had a dramatic shift in the way that he felt. Because of these images, he felt this overwhelming sense of loss and hurt, this overwhelming sense of regret, and yet he wasn't even dead. But his unconscious mind conjured up these images which caused him to desire change. And he did change. I want to tell you another story. There's a man by the name of Matsui Oyama. And Matsui Oyama grew up in Japan, and in Japan he learnt various styles of karate. Now karate is taught everywhere throughout Japan. It's a big thing, and he started to really develop himself physically to be the strongest that he could be. However, he felt that there was something missing. And so in his search for what he called the ultimate truth, he went off to meditate in the wilderness. He took off for a period of 3 years. Now granted, that wasn't 3 continuous years, there was a small break in the middle. But 3 years he meditated and trained on a mountaintop. And during this time of meditation and training, he was seeking to find out what his body was capable of. He would stand under freezing cold waterfalls. He would go and collect nice smooth stones from the riverbank and chop them using a karate chop. He started to develop this strength and power, not just in his physical body, but in his mind and in his heart. When he came back after the 3 years, he was nicknamed the God Hand, and I'll tell you why. He did a tour of the USA. He wanted to promote this idea of karate. He wanted to promote it to America. Because at that time, we're talking about the 60s and 70s, at that time karate wasn't big. It wasn't huge. Thanks to Bruce Lee and Masaru Oyama and other things, karate and martial arts has become a very big thing today. But back then it was very small and wasn't well known. He did a tour of the USA and he fought 270 fights. Not only did he win every fight, but he fought wrestlers, boxers, karate, kickboxers, anybody who thought they had a chance. And not only did he win every fight, but not one fight lasted more than 1 minute or one round. And most fights were over within seconds. And here's why. When you punched Masaru Oyama, if he blocked, he broke your arm. Known as a guide, and if he punched you, he'd break a rib. And so basically what would happen, he would block, he would strike, he would bust things, people would walk away injured just from 1 or 2 strikes. It was incredible. A lot of it, our body gives us what we expect or what we ask of it. If we were to ask more of it, we would find that we could do more, we could be more. There was a race that I saw on the internet. There was 2 90-plus-year-old men. I believe one was 93 and one 99. And they ran along together in a race. They ran a 100-metre race. It was just amazing to see these men, old men, who'd no doubt looked after their bodies. And here they were doing something which for their age is incredible. So going back to 2015, I attended a seminar in Sydney. After returning from that seminar to Brisbane, in the next 5 weeks, I was able to drop 12 kilos in weight, which I thought was incredible. And in fact, I got my abs back. So I was looking down, I hadn't seen them for years. I was in my late 30s, I was 39 years old, hadn't seen them for years, and suddenly something happened between that time period, and it literally changed me. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how we can take control of this thing called weight, take control of our bodies, so that we can get our bodies to give us the results that we want. Rather than some people are doing all the work and all the effort and just not making progress. You know what I'm talking about? People hit the gym, people do all sorts of things, and they look down and the progress isn't there, and they go, what's wrong? What's happening? Why can't I get these, this thinness that I'm after, the abs showing, or the muscle bulges that I want? I've listened a lot to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he used to visualize his muscles, his bicep muscles bulging in the middle. He used to visualize it and see the bulge that he wanted from his muscles. And he's one of the very few weightlifters that was able to get the bulge or that look on his biceps. There's very many who haven't been able to achieve that. But a lot of it came from this. It was the mind. It was the mindset. And when you've got a mindset of a champion, you can make tremendous results. Like a lot of people think when it comes to abs, when it comes to fitness or health, it's all down to the exercise. Couldn't be further from the truth. It's not the exercise. You can go and work hard, but if your caloric intake is too high, then all you're doing is burning calories. You're not going to burn away fat, and you're not going to produce or show your muscles. Reducing body fat is about reducing caloric intake. So if we reduce caloric intake, we'll actually reduce body fat. A lot of people think that they can do abs and have their abs pop through the fat. It doesn't work. You've got to reduce the abs reduce the fat to let the abs show through. So that's how it works. And so reducing body fat is all about reducing the amount of calories. Then when you exercise, you're not using the calories because you don't have enough. The calories are being used in normal day-to-day living and sleeping. You burn calories while you're sleeping, while you're breathing. So if you reduce by about 25% your calories, and one of the quickest ways to do that is to just cut out a meal. So instead of having 3 meals, you have 2. And they call this intermittent fasting. And for the last 3 days, I've been intermittent fasting this week to get ready for six-pack abs, just in case anybody wants to see them. So I've been working really hard, and when I intermittent fast, I can drop. I'll tell you an example. I did 10 days of intermittent fasting. I started off 8-hour eating window, followed by a 16-hour fast. And in the 16-hour fast, I just drink water, but I also have Celtic salt. Celtic salt replenishes your minerals in your body. So if you're just having water alone, you may get mineral depleted. So you want to make sure you've got enough minerals. Mind you, I have Celtic salt every morning. I put a little bit on my tongue, then I drink my wheatgrass down. Wheatgrass is good for alkalizing. So I teach a whole alkalis and acid seminar workshop, which is really good. That one, I'll have to do that in the future. I will be doing that at the next seminar next year. I'll be doing a whole segment, probably 4 to 6 hours on health. And so if you're interested in the next year's seminar, we'll be taking this to a whole different level, talk about acid, alkaline, talk about a whole bunch of other stuff in relation to exercise and training and health. So if you're interested in that, that's next year in February, I believe, 28th or 29th of February. It's probably over there on the next thing. So that's the health one. It's a 3-day seminar next year. So we look at the first day will be Unlock Your Incredible Self, because I need to get your conscious mind to shut down. Because too many people are sitting there judging with their conscious mind, their rational mind, and it stops learning. The more judgments you hold, the more you think about stuff, the more it stops you learning. So what we've got to do over the first day is try to bypass the critical factor so that we can go deep into the recess of the mind where we can make change happen more rapidly. And so the first day is about getting through that stubborn frontal layer of the brain and trying to get deeper into the back, or not trying, actually getting into the deeper levels. But only you could do that. But I show you the process, I show you the steps to get there.
Is that what happens with hypnosis?
Yeah, absolutely. Hypnosis does the same thing. So with hypnosis, the same sort of thing. What they're dealing with is it was Milton Erickson, the father of modern day hypnotherapy. He's the one who created hypnotherapy, and it was recognised by psychology as a legitimate therapeutical tool. But he was the one behind it all. Okay, so Milton Erickson, and he would tell people stories, and he would help them go into their unconscious mind through the use of stories, and he would create changes just by sharing stories. In fact, if you went to see Milton Erickson and you had, say, smoking cessation, he might never talk about smoking directly, but he might talk about the dog who had a bone in its mouth and couldn't drink the still fresh water because of the bone. And he might tell this story, and he might tell similar stories, and then the person would find their behaviour changing without even knowing why. And he was a magician at helping them to create change where they couldn't see a possibility of change. And so it's amazing stuff. That's hypnotherapy. But that's how he did it. So it wasn't all about eyes closed processes. We do that in the seminar, by the way. We do some of that as well. But it was just about leading the unconscious mind. Right? I did it with the Christian ones. I went and saw this Christian guy, and they were smoking, him and his partner. And they're inside the house, and I remember that story too. And so I'm sitting there with them, and I'm going, right, we're going to help you quit smoking. So I said, have you got a knife? So they went, you've got me a really sharp knife. And I said, have you got a picture of Jesus? And I had a knife in one hand and a picture of Jesus in the other. And I was going, now let's go outside. And as I was standing there holding this knife with this picture of Jesus, I said, now smoke. And he said, I don't really want to. Smoke, I said, smoke! Get the smoke in your mouth. So he got the smoke in his mouth, and I'm holding this knife like this, looking angry. And I said, now look at Jesus while you're doing it. And he's smoking, looking at the picture of Jesus.
What happened?
And then I brought it back and said, he quit smoking.
Well, Tony Robinson, he was pretty drastic.
But I did this for, it's probably about 20 minutes. I'm yelling at them. I'm making all these noises. Because what I'm doing is causing this. I'm causing this release. So here I've got two things, right? I've got fear, intense fear. He didn't know whether I mean, he did. He sort of half knew I wasn't going to stab him, but the way that I was shouting, and I was just hoping that at no time a neighbour looked over the fence to see. I suddenly we had police there because I'm holding this knife. But it was one of those things that was real. And the unconscious mind was making these changes. The reason I used a knife was he told me he had a fear of knives. So I used knife. I used a knife. I worked on his fear. And I don't recommend this because that was quite an interesting strategy, and it was a good learning experience for myself. But oh my goodness, it worked. It works. And looking at Jesus while he's smoking, at the end he didn't want to smoke. I said, smoke again. He said, I don't want to. I said, smoke anyway. And he refused. He wouldn't put smokes in his mouth. And that's what I wanted. Imagine that. Now he hates smoking, whereas before he loved smoking, right? Making him look at Jesus and have a knife in the other hand, suddenly he hates smoking. Okay, that's a pretty drastic sort of thing, but it worked. It's powerful. But if we can work with the unconscious mind, if we can get into the reptilian complex, we can get it there for you. We can change almost anything in your life. You want a great relationship? You want a phenomenal relationship? One with yourself, with somebody else? Come to the seminar. You want to change something about your life, like your health, your spirituality, your connectedness to God? If you want to change something, come along to the seminar. We'll create changes at the deepest level. And the reason being is I'm going to teach good stuff. And at the same time as teaching good stuff or teaching truth, at the same time we're going to get excited and we're going to open up your mind. We're going to create changes at the deepest levels possible. And it's awesome. Because we're not apply. We're not going to let you teach you stuff and then let you walk away like most seminars do. 90% of seminars will teach you information. You walk away and it's up to you to try and install it. How do you get it, the information from the page into your brain? How do you get it from your brain into your heart? How do you get it from your heart to your hands or to your body? That's what we do. We do the whole lot. We do it all within the seminar. So, when I did this intermittent fasting, I was able to shed 6 kilos in 10 days. And that was through cutting out those meals. So that was another time. That wasn't this first period. This was about 8 months ago. And that was incredible. And that was through intermittent fasting. So one, I'm doing the exercise in the morning. I'm eating right. And the intermittent, in fact, I wasn't. I was eating a bit of wheat, more wheat than I should have. I was eating more sugar than I should have. And I still, with the intermittent fasting, began dropping body fat. It's amazing how it works. Intermittent fasting is powerful. So you've got that one. When you think of Matsuya Oyama, he's the man who went out to the mountain for 3 years and he pushed his body in extreme ways. He did a tour of the US, he fought 270 fights and he won every fight. And he became known as the God Hand. And the reason he was known as the God Hand was because he was so powerful. He was so powerful physically because he was so powerful mentally. And if you want to know this the connection, it's there. When you get powerful here, when you get powerful in your mind, the body follows suit. And if you get powerful in your desire to shed body fat, your body will follow along. And your body will say, yes, sir. It's like I explained, a ship captain and the crew. The captain runs the ship, but the crew does all the support work. Your conscious mind is like the ship captain. Your unconscious mind is like the ship supporting crew. So when you make a decision and you're completely congruent in yourself, when I say congruence, what I look at is your words and your intentions and your desires and your actions. When all 4 of those completely line up, then when the ship captain gives a command, the crew falls into line and change becomes effortless and easy. It's like running along sometimes, and who's ever felt this, and having an anchor tied to you. And you feel like you're running, but it's so hard to get anywhere. It's like you're going in slow motion. Who's had those dreams where you're running, but you're running in slow motion? Or worse, who's had the dream where you're running and you're going backwards? You're going back towards the thing you're trying, and you just can't get anywhere. That's what life is like when you've got unconscious resistance. Cut yourself free of unconscious resistance and all your energy is there to propel you forward. And when all your energy is going in one direction, it becomes effortless and easy. It actually does. And it becomes a joyful adventure rather than something you've got to strain and stress and worry about. It becomes joyful, becomes wonderful. And finally, where I began was a story about my friend Tusa. Tusa changed. You see, in the next 6 months, after he changed his diet, after he changed his food intake, he was able to drop something like 60 to 80 kilograms of weight. He was able to get himself under control. And this was all done because his unconscious mind showed him these pictures of what it was going to look like when his wife was a widow and when his children were fatherless. And when he saw those images, he changed in an instant. He changed in an instant. And you know what? If we work right, and we do this well, with your unconscious mind, you will change that quick, just that fast. And you don't have to wait until you're meters from your deathbed. You won't have to wait until your marriage is about to hit divorce. You don't have to wait until your health is so bad that you're about to have a coronary. You don't have to wait until you're feeling so disconnected from the Spirit or from God that you feel worthless or hopeless or helpless. You don't have to wait until the worst possible scenarios happen. You can change now. And the way we do it is we conjure these things up in your mind to create the tension that we need between pain and pleasure. And so that your brain will make the switch. And when your brain makes the switch, it will send you in a new direction. And when your brain makes that switch, that's when your life changes.